I've been building Evergreen for months now, and until this week you couldn't properly play it with a controller. That has finally changed. But while I was getting Evergreen off the keyboard, I also unearthed a body in the swamp, started building its next traversal ability, and discovered that some of my trees had absolutely no idea where the ground was. Last week, I completely rebuilt Evergreen's shadow system, but fixing the shadows exposed an older structural problem underneath them. Some of the player, props and scenery weren't consistently positioned from the point where they actually touched the ground. That matters because Evergreen uses something called Y sorting. Basically, it allows the game to decide whether the player should appear in front or behind an object based on where their feet are standing. Without it, you get this. And with it working properly, you get this. So I went back through the game and corrected the affected scenes and gave everything one consistent understanding of where the ground actually is, which should hopefully prevent my trees, props and shadows from entering different dimensions again. Once that was fixed, I moved on to something slightly more archaeological. This is Evergreen's next relic, the Bog Body. Bog bodies are human remains that have been naturally preserved inside peat bogs, sometimes for thousands of years. They're fascinating and fairly unsettling, part of real Irish history, which makes one a natural fit for the darker side of Evergreen's swamp. I created and animated the sprite, placed it into the swamp and wrote its lore and discovery entry. So by Monday night the Bog Body was alive, which was technically the first thing I'd done wrong. Adding another relic did uncover one leftover restriction from Evergreen's much earlier prototype. Remember that demo back in May? The game still expected relics to be discovered in a fixed order and only allowed the player to find one per in-game day. That doesn't suit the more open structure Evergreen has now, so I removed those restrictions. Relics can now exist independently and can be discovered naturally whenever the player manages to reach them, though there is a fairly specific order that I intend the player to discover them in. That's enough relic system housekeeping for one episode, I promise. As you already know, discovering a relic in Evergreen doesn't just add another collectible to a menu. Its ability should open routes through the world that the player couldn't reach before. The Bog Body's ability will eventually allow the player to cross deep-marsh, waterlogged ground and similar impassable terrain, opening new areas of the swamp as well as routes elsewhere in the game. Right now though, this is only a proof of concept. I'm testing the system now using the ordinary marsh tiles, but these particular tiles will be naturally traversable in the finished game. The final block terrain will be much deeper and more obviously impassable in the finished version of the marsh. For now, I'm proving that the game can recognise specific ground types and stop the player before they have the ability to go there, and allow them to cross once the ability has been unlocked. And then there was the main job this week: controller support. Every control currently available in Evergreen has now been mapped to a PlayStation 4 controller. Movement, combat, tools, interaction, abilities and menus can all be used without reaching for the keyboard. Technically, the system works. Now I'm testing whether the layout actually feels natural, whether your fingers instinctively go to the right buttons without needing to stop and remember where I decided to put everything, or check the instruction manual. There'll probably be a few mappings changed as I keep testing, but for the first time I can sit back with a controller and play through Evergreen properly. And honestly, that makes it feel far more like an actual game. I've also started creating artwork for Evergreen's first abandoned Viking settlement, located just beyond the bridge. But right now it's still a collection of loose assets, and I'd rather show you an actual place rather than a folder full of sprites. So next week I'll begin bringing those assets into the world and giving the settlement the introduction it deserves. For now, Evergreen works on a controller. The Bog Body is waiting in the swamp, and its next traversal system is officially alive. If you want to see the Viking settlement take shape, subscribe to follow the development of Evergreen. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next week.